So again, welcome everyone. Welcome to this InvestGlass presentation, where we'll show you how to modernize all your digital forms with automations. So first, what is InvestGlass? InvestGlass is an all-in-one cloud Swiss cloud solution, which will help you to automate your sales like never before. We develop top-notch productivity tools for all the different businesses that you find here. InvestGlass has a suite of tools from digital onboarding, CRM, portfolio management tool, order management tool, automation, obviously an API which aims to connect the applications together, digital signature, investment rebalancing, sales pipeline, and customizable portal. So here in one suite, you have the whole solution. And obviously, as you know, InvestGlass has also over 30 partners, fintech partners, to help you automate even more your sales process. So in today's agenda, we'll show you how to set up the CRM. In fact, the basic elements of how to set up the CRM. Then we'll see how to set up the forms and how to set up the automations. So what we found out is that most onboarding forms don't work usually because they are too complex. First, most forms ask too many information at once. They are too long. They also require some additional documents which usually are not present or collected before the actual onboarding. So that's why I'll show you that with InvestGlass Forms, you can actually start an onboarding process, save it, and submit the results later on. And then sometimes the wording is just too complex or confusing. 50% of the journeys are broken, and we'll show you that they are broken usually because the forms are too long. A good onboarding form should take between 5 to 10 minutes, maximum above 10 minutes. It will create frustration, and obviously it will be difficult for the prospect to get focused on the topics. So our suggestion is keep them super stupid simple, right? We have three natures of forms. The first in blue is, I would say, the simple forms. Usually they are on your website. You can use them also with the email system of InvestGlass to individualize information capturing. They will help you to segment also and segment the updates for your clients, and they're usually very basic forms. The second type is forms that are either used for investments onboarding, for portfolio selection, for risk assessments. So here you will be using the concept of points, and we'll go in details and show you how this works. And then it can also be used for satisfaction survey with a scale and points. The third type of onboarding forms will be the forms used for API name checks. So once you put the name of your prospects into the system, InvestGlass will basically look into the different APIs. So LexisNexis, CDDS, or Polixis, with which we've been working now very closely for the past few months. Polixis basically will help you to check the prospect names. So three types of onboarding. And once you've done that, you have to set up the ideal scenario. It doesn't need to be too complex. Obviously, if it's for lead capture, as you'll see now on the website, I'm going to show you, it doesn't need to be too complex. But if you're asking more, so for example, you have the first form will be for service opening, right? You have your wealth management company, and you have the first form. You want to open the first form, the first service. You have a simple form, but then later on, you're going to have the bank's custodian forms that you have to attach to it. So you see, you already have a second step. It's very easy to put them together, but you have to think through this process before you actually start. So now let's go into InvestGlass. To access the backend, you go from My Account Company, and the first step we will go and have a look into is the CRM. So the CRM, Client Relationship Management System, will help you to capture information. So if I look into any contact page, what you will find is the details. So those are the fields that you are going to capture, and the suitability. Today, we're going to talk mostly about the details fields, which are the CRM fields. The suitability are here to help you to assess the level of knowledge or risk assessment of your client. It's something we'll look into later on. So if you look into the CRM fields, the first thing you see here is that you have fields in French, you have fields in English, you have fields in Chinese. Some fields have information help. Others might be mandatory, like this one. So how do you manage all those fields into InvestGlass? It's extremely simple. You simply go to My Account Company, and then you go down there and you will find the custom fields. This one. The custom fields will be the first step before you actually start a form. Why? Because if you ask, for example, what is your favorite social club? What is your social identity number? What is your birth date? Well, those fields might be existing already into InvestGlass, but there might be fields that are not existing, or perhaps you want to put them in French or in Japanese or in German, and they are in your default system in English, right? So to do that, you can click here on Actions, and here you'll be able to create a new field. In this new field page, which has quite a lot of information, it will help you to actually do two things. First, to set the field name and field label. So here, for example, I'm going to say, okay, your brand, let's say your favorite watch brand. Okay. I'm just going to copy the same field label here. And as you find here, we can have what we call a value sets. So this is very helpful because I'll be able to capture the values from another list and bring them here. Let me show you how this would look like. Here into the value set, let me create a value set. Caget, Swatch, Vacheron, Seiko, and IWC. So now, when I will actually select a value into this value set, from this value set, the choice will be sorted alphabetically. So now I'm going to create a new custom field. And here I will find the watch value sets. Obviously, I can select different types of options here, like a radio button or a checkbox. I'll leave you have fun with this, but basically checkboxes means I can select multiple. A radio button is only one, right? And then here you have many details. I won't go too much into the details of the system, but what you find here is the possibility to restrict the access of these specific fields to a given role. So for example, only the managers would see, for example, their own records, but the compliance department will see everything. This is also something you should think through before you actually start collecting more data. And also, as you appreciate here, you have the possibility to tag this field as GDPR or PCI. That also will be meant to help you for your own reporting. So now I have my watch field, right? Your favorite watch. Okay. So next time I refresh this page of a CRM, I will find eventually the name here into the background. And I have now, you see the watch showing up here. Okay, so now if I look into the detailed fields, what I will find is the field that I just created. So those fields here will appear. You see here your favorite watch And now I can select them with the checkbox UX. Fine. So this is how you would set the fields into InvestGlass. Obviously, when you start with InvestGlass, you already have templates, so you don't have to worry about all those fields that you have to set up. If you need to inject more fields from another system, there's also very interesting tricks to do so. So once I set up my CRM fields, the next step is to set up the forms, right? So again, you go to My Account Company, and then you will find here the forms. So when you look into the forms, you'll find two types of forms. The first type of forms is onboarding forms, and the second type of forms is DM profiler, which stands for discretionary mandate profiling. So that's for, I would say, wealth managers and banks, and it will produce very nice donuts. I'll show you now the different format. So here we selected four forms that are visible into the app page, and we'll look into them before we actually look how we build them. So this form, for example, this profiler is a DM form, discretionary mandate profiler system. Here you will find a donut, and based on the client's answers, the prospect could be still a prospect answer. So the prospect answers you will collect. The widgets here, the donut will actually change and vary based on the answers. Okay. This is an example here of a French wealth management typical type of onboarding, where I'm going to collect the answers. I can collect documents and then send this for a submission. Obviously, everything is in French. All the buttons are in French. Now, let me show you another format. And I'm also going to show you this one. All right, so let's have a look now at a mortgage. So here you see the first one might have been, I would say, the first type of form you're going to use. This one here now you see on my screen is more like a subscription to a specific service. So InvestGlass has dozens of those templates for mortgage, for credit card, debit cards, for portfolio solicitation, but also for FATCA or account opening forms in general. So all those forms can be set up within InvestGlass. No programming, as you will see later on. Another type of form you might find very useful is this type of form, like the one you find on the website here. So this is an InvestGlass forms that has been nested inside the WordPress or your content management system you're using. All the answers will then be collected and sent directly into InvestGlass. So again, that's very, very handy. Now, how do we build those forms? Here, you will click back on My Account Company, then here on New Onboarding Forms. Now, I'm going to set a name. So the thematic is Watch. And here you will see I have different form types. The reason of having different form types is because those forms can actually help you to capture information, not only for contacts, so Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but also for the relation, which would be the Smith family, or the account, which is above the Smith family, into which you would have limited power of attorneys and beneficial owners linked to the accounts. I would say the simple one is contact, obviously. Okay. So what you will find here, it's 4 pages. And in those 4 pages, you will have different aspects of the forms. First, we're going to create just a very simple form. So click on Add Page. I'm not going to put any title to the page. Then I'm going to click on Edit Page. First question. Okay. What is your name? The column name will help you set a value for the column when you want to extract the field. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this field directly into InvestGlass CRM. That's very helpful because all the information will stay in the same server, right? I can also decide a format in terms of input. Here, I won't touch anything. And the parent questions and answers will be used if you want to hide or show a question based on the answers. You can also set a default answer as well as put it as mandatory. Let's put it as mandatory. When you generate a PDF, those answers can also be embedded into the PDF you generate, but we won't touch to this for now. And I'm going to add another question. Here is going to be your favorite brand. And you see here, the field that we created and the value set we created are already connected to InvestGlass. So that's why it's important to first set up the fields and then set up the questions. Okay, let's keep it simple like that. What you have to know is that it's also possible to add a link. The link will be, for example, a video that you want to embed into InvestGlass. A description will be a piece of text. It's also important to note that we have here what we call a LaTeX system, which will help you to make the text very, very much resemblant to what you have on your Word documents. You can add some invisible fields, and the child fields are used when you want to add a child. So you remember I told you about the contact, the accounts, and the relations, right? So if I have an account, which is basically the mother, the child of the account would be the contact. So this is where you'll be able to create a form which collects information for multiple contacts in one form for an account. Okay, now what do we have else? So here we have general. So general will be the general settings of the forms, and it is the place where you'll see, I would say, the basic information of the form, right? The tags will be very helpful if you want to use the concept of a package. The package helps you to collect multiple forms at once to create a package for onboarding. This is very common in private bank, very common in wealth management. Obviously, the idea is to have multiple services binded to the same package, and this will obviously help you later on if you want to automate the process. Then you can set who will receive a notification when the form is actually submitted. And you can add a closing and ending message. Bye-bye, thank you. We received your message. If you have any emergency, call us on that number. This is the type of message you would add here. Very important, if you are adding your form into a website, you should make sure that you copy the address here of your website and make sure also that it's an HTTPS. This is for security reason. You must have a website with HTTPS to make sure that someone is not basically trying to do some phishing on your data. Then you have a document title, version number, and internal number. This is very helpful for institutions where the documents are changing very often and you want to make sure that you track the SERI, right? And then you have options to show into the export PDF all the questions and answers, or show only the mandatory questions and answers. So why we would use this? Well, we'll use this because in some questionnaires, you might have a lot of questions and you might not be interested to generate a PDF with questions that are just not mandatory or have not been answered, right? Then you can save the PDF into the CRM document. So that's a very helpful system into InvestGlass. So when you generate an onboarding forms within InvestGlass, then the document will be directly into the CRM document recorded. Again, the system works on Swiss servers, so the data will stay on Swiss servers unless you have it in Singapore, Luxembourg servers. Then here you have the possibility to include a signature. This is for one of our fintech, Credas fintech partner that will do the name check. And this is where you'll put the credentials. So I want to show you this one. I mean, we have other partners that actually do this too, but this is a very nice way to show you how seamless it is to use another fintech within InvestGlass. You just need to buy some credits at Credas, and then this will work seamlessly for the name check. This will help you to show if you want to create a new contact each time there's a new submit. Generate a contact report means that all the data collected within the form will be generating a contact report attached to the contact. Very important, you want to grant an access to the client portal. So obviously, if you use those forms on your website, you might say, yes, that's fantastic. But when I click on submit, I want to create a portal access for my private equity investors or for my wealth management investors. This is how you would do it. Display score. This is for score-based forms. And freeze and submit. So to freeze a form means basically you won't be able to re-edit the form. This is very helpful for large institutions where you want to make sure that once it's submitted, no one is going to actually change it, right? And then you have the different redirect on submit. So the redirect on submit means once you actually finished the form, right? You fill in the form, where do you want the users, where do you want your clients to actually land? Is it on a special thank you page? Okay, is it on the client portal page? So that's why I was talking to you about the journey of the forms. It's important to think about this like this. Here, you know exactly where you're going to have the client landing. Then for the designs, you will find all the aspects of colors, image, and also the possibility to change the buttons, any buttons, basically, in your local language. And then the permissions will help you to set the visibility either for your members, for your employees, right? Your team members, or to show it also on the client portal. And this, again, will be very helpful if you need to show a form only if KYC fields are missing, for example, right? You don't need to show it on the portal all time, right? So I think here we've seen all the different options. Now let me save it. So this form, obviously, we've done just one page, but there could be multiple pages. Don't forget to click yes here to activate it. And now let's look at this form. Okay, so here you see we have what's your name, what's your favorite watch brands. So eventually I can here say, here, my name is James. I like those brands, and I click on submit, right? Now, this is very helpful, but obviously if you have multiple forms to fill in, you want to be slightly faster and make sure that those forms will actually won't need to be filled in multiple times, right? So for that, it's very simple. So you see, I just created James, by the way. So by submitting this form, this created a new contact. Here, I'm going to upload a file in the form. And what you'll find here that is very helpful, if I reload the form, the information will already be filled in. So here I will select form. Now I'm going to select the watch, upload. And now I'm going to find into this uploaded form, you're going to see here, let me click on it, James, right? So here, this form actually is going to look that it's meant to be filled in by James or for James. So James' name is going to be here. And now if James wants to change his name and to be called James/Paul, Well, basically, this is going to update the information directly into the CRM. Perhaps it changes taste in terms of watches, and this also is going to change. This is very helpful because obviously it means that when you collect information, you won't lose time. Okay, so now let's go back into James Paul. Oh, by the way, you see I'm going back to the app page because I click redirect on the app page. Okay, so now you see it's James Paul, and if I look into the details of his favorite brands, this actually favorite brands changed. Okay. So here you see the very, very basic of creating a forms. Forms obviously can be of very different nature. And with InvestGlass, as we digitalize insurance, retail bank, private banking forms, you see factoring applications, demande de prêt hypothécaire, debit card applications. We know very well how to generate those onboarding forms, even in Chinese. So we'll help you to make your forms, paper forms, into those wonderful digital forms. So please save the world. No more paper. Try not to have any paper. Obviously, you can still click on print PDF later on if you want to generate a paper PDF. But please try to digitalize this. And I'm sure, as unfortunately most of you cannot travel anymore, you will find those features extremely helpful to acquire new clients, but also to have them sign all the documents you have to sign. And obviously, with all those regulations, we have a lot of documents to sign. Now, talking about automations is the next step. It's a very important step because once you collected all this information, you want to make sure that this information has been filled in correctly. For that, you have an access to the audit trail system into InvestGlass. The audit trail system is the heart of KYC remediation. KYC remediation means that we have, for each of those records, fields that are either missing or that are just wrong or will create an incident. This is what we call remediation. Okay, it's obviously linked to money laundering. It's linked to the PEP sanction checks. But it can also be linked to many other stuff in terms of automations and alerts you want to capture. It is in this screen that you will capture all the, I won't say the bad clients, but basically the clients that have issues, right? And you have to create a ticket and then generate eventually some reports, contact reports, and share with them some forms. We will organize a webinar only about remediation topic next week. So stay tuned if you want to look into this. Next week, it will be next Thursday. Now, let's look into the automation. How do we produce all those remediation KYC? This is generated thanks to the automation system of InvestGlass. The automation system of InvestGlass basically is like your personal assistant and works night and day, 7 hours, 7 days per week and 24 hours, right, per day. So here I'm going to show you an automation. Okay. So this is the automation. This is, let me just open another one perhaps. Okay. Let me show you how this works. So this is the automation system where you will find all the different rules you can automate. The first thing that is important is to automate based on an object, right? An API. So here I'm going to connect into the contact values of the CRM. It could be with values from InvestGlass, but it can be also values from a third-party API or from a data lake that is hosted within InvestGlass. A data lake means basically a big folder with a lot of Excel spreadsheets that InvestGlass is consuming. Then once you selected which field you want to automate or which field you want to look into, you will have what we call a rule-based engine. The rule-based engine will look into the data based on different rules. You have first two options. First is on record creation. So when I create a new record, and then here I can select create on edit, edit, field update. So here, for example, I want to say I want to be warned each time there's a new field. Let's imagine I put here imagine that Pep Entourage is ticked to yes, okay, because you receive a signal from the API of Polixis. It's yes. Then you want to receive a notification, right? It can also be used when it's a form submit. So this is very helpful. For example, if you want to trigger for a specific form. So let's imagine I have a welcome form. At the end of the welcome form, on the step 5, I'm sorry, on the step 4, then I will select an external API, which will trigger here the digital signature with Signatis, another fintech partner. So that's very helpful because it means that each time someone, for example, from your website is actually filling in a form, bam, it will automatically send to this prospect the document to be signed to start the account opening form and receive your services. This is also a very nice way to make sure that the number, the name, and the email you collect are actually real, right? Because during the digital signature process, your prospect is going to receive an email with the PDF to sign that he can access from his email, right? But it will also receive an SMS with a 6 or 8 digit code that he has to input into the document to sign the document. So it's a 2-factor authentication here. So that's very helpful to use this automation. We have clients using it and it works very well for private equity, for wealth management also, robo-advisor. All right, and then the step number 3 is how you want to automate this. Are there some conditions? You want to automate this rule every time, right? Or based on specific fields and specific values that will be seen. So for example, I want to activate the PEP only for, I would say, perhaps a given country equals Afghanistan or equals Haiti, okay, and the third one, voila, equals Ireland. Like this, everyone is happy, right? So here the machine will only trigger the automation if the rule actually has this value. And then you'll see some automations here that are very easy to use, like send an email. So if I send an email, basically it's sending an email either to the contact or the owner or a specific member of the company, okay? Then here I can create a record. So if here I create a record, then obviously it will just create a new contact or do similar type of information type of. Update a record means that you want to, for example, once the document is signed, set the tag of a prospect into a client, and you want to do this automatically. We can also use this type of updates to automate a pipeline. So each time you have a new company recorded into the CRM, you want to actually link this new contact, this new company to a pipeline. So this is how you would do it. Notification and task, obviously you get it. And then trigger automation and approval rule or automation rule or approval rule will actually send this automation to another automation to do something else. So this is how you're going to create a fork of automations and create a folder. You get it. So those automations will make your life, I would say, completely different in terms of behavior, in terms of time you'll save, in terms of process. I hope this gives you a good idea of how powerful the system is. Obviously, it's quite simple. There's no programming, yet it's still complex enough to satisfy all your needs in terms of digital onboarding. And that's why InvestGlass is very modern, because you have all those options. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions, please let us know. Contact us. Send us an email at contact@investglass.com. And we hope to see you next week for the remediation webinar.